Hi guys, I welcome you all to the next lecture in our anthropology series. So yesterday we had started our next chapter, that is human growth and development, and we had talked about the first phase of development, and that is we were talking about the prenatal period, right? And I told you also that I'll just show you the pictures, and with that we can just revise a bit, right? So you can just see this picture, how this is a zygote, okay? This zygote starts to develop in a blastocyst where the placenta, umbilical cord, endoderm, ectoderm, all of that was happening. So this was the our germinal phase. Okay, this was the first phase, that was the germinal phase. Then starts our embryonic phase, right? Embryonic phase is from the second week to the eighth week, and our final fetal period is from the eighth week to the birth, right? This you see, this single cell zygote, or this zygote now becomes a full fledged baby in the final phase of the gestation. So you can see clearly the kind of growth and development that happens. So the size is also increasing, size is growing bigger, there is multiplicity of cells are multiplicating, right? So that is also there. Then specialization is also happening from a single cell organism to now your respiratory system, your nervous system, your brain development, heart development, arms, legs, everything is developing. So you can just see this whole graph, ठीक है ना? So this shows you the growth and development in the prenatal phase. I don't think there is any doubt about this. Anybody who has not watched the yesterday's lecture should go back and watch it, because uske bina you will not be able to understand the next part. I hope yesterday everybody understood, and now just let's start with our topic. So prenatal phase, and this we have studied, ठीक है? Newborn, now we have to study about the newborns, ठीक है ना? We'll study about the newborns and infancy stage. So natal phase aa gaya, that is after birth, the 28 days post the birth, ठीक है, delineated by rapid growth and adaptation to extra uterine environment. Now what does that mean? It means that abhi tak what was happening, there was the baby was growing inside the womb of the mother, so it was the uterine environment. That means baby was protected from a lot of extra you can say pressures that are there, ठीक है ना? So baby was not exposed to them, but now the baby is born, and this is the time when you have to take a lot of care of the baby, because baby is not that strong, so immunity has not built up, so any kind of external environmental things can affect the baby. So this is precisely that we are going to study. The first 28 days, ठीक है, are difficult, because now the baby is not supported by the mother, but has to develop on its own, and this is only the time when the baby shows rapid growth also, ठीक है ना? So the newborn is now detached from the mother's placenta and now relies on its own circulatory, digestive and excretory system. पहले तो mother के through it was happening, ठीक है, umbilical cord से there was nourishment also happening, excretory system was also on mother's support, but now the baby has to detach itself to that and start to work on its own, and that is when the development of its own organs starts to begin, ठीक है? So there is inadequate growth and development during prenatal period. That means in the prenatal period, the baby was more relying on the mother's womb, right, for taking out its activities. But now it has to do it on its own. So the newborn vulnerability, especially for the duration of 24 hours after birth, is more. ठीक है ना? So because now that's when the shift takes place. So that time is very critical. ठीक है ना? And that is the time when there is high neonate mortality also. So because ये time होता है that shift, so if you do not take care of the baby, there are chances that there is a high amount of mortality rate. So neonate mortality is high because of that only, because that is there a shift from mother's support system to your own. You have to develop your own. So infancy you can define it as a period during which the nursing takes place, typically lasting about 4 years in human. So this is the time when the mother breastfeeds the child and the mother takes care of the child, ठीक है ना. So this time the baby is not independent enough, ठीक है ना. Baby is not independent enough, he needs all the time care and support, ठीक है. So the first year is characterized by rapid physical growth, but nevertheless independent नहीं होता, but then this time baby shows a lot of rapid growth, ठीक है. So normal baby doubles its birth weight in 6 months. For example, the typical birth weight of a child is around 3 kilograms, ठीक है. So that is considered to be a normal weight. Some babies range, so range अगर आपको बोलना हो तो 2 kg to 4 kg, you can just say that that is the range, ठीक है. But in the 6 months, for example, if the baby is 3 kgs, in the 6th month it will double its weight, so it will become of 6 kg, and in 1 year it triples its weight, so it will become 9 kg का, ठीक है ना, right. So like that it starts to grow. So infancy में हमने बात कर लिया first 4 weeks of the life, that is 28 days, ठीक है. They are critical period as the transition from the intrauterine period to independent existence happen, ठीक है. पहला point, no doubt about that. Then in this time the baby is about, you can say, about 20 inches long. So height at this time is of the baby is 20 inches, ठीक है. And weight up, you can just say around 3 kgs weight is, so you can say 7.5 pounds also, ठीक है. So 7.5 pounds का baby होता है, ठीक है. And it starts to grow, and this height and this weight also depends upon the race, ठीक है. Sex as in gender, ठीक है. As in male female, you can say male or female, because in the cases of that height will depend and that race पे भी depend करेगा. And nutrition, baby is fed properly or not, as we saw in the marasmus, in the case of marasmus and kwashiorkor, we studied in 9.8. If anybody has not watched that, please go back and watch it, because these are important. So nutrition से भी बहुत फर्क पड़ता है, whether the baby is growing properly or not. So this is the growth का idea, ठीक है. Now if I have to tell you certain more aspects of it, I'll just tell you. In this period, there is, when the baby gets born, okay, then it loses 10% of its weight. First time जब पैदा होता है, it loses 10% of its weight because of the loss of the fluids, ठीक है. But in sometimes, you can say after 5 to 6 days of birth, ठीक है, the baby again starts to gain the weight, and you can say by the 10th to 14th day the baby comes back to the weight at birth, ठीक है ना. So temporarily drop होता है because of the external pressures. Then again 10 to 14 days में, within 2 weeks the baby comes back to the original weight, ठीक है, at birth जो था, ठीक है. So first thing is this 20 inches का height, 7.5 pounds का baby. Now circulatory system क्या होता है? Before the birth, mother supports the baby, ठीक है. Now the circulatory system of the baby starts to work on its own, and similarly the respiratory system and all of that, ठीक है. So if you have to talk about the growth, ठीक है, हमने बात कर लिया. ग्रोथ में क्या होता है? बेबी स्टार्ट्स टू गेन द वेट, ठीक है. वेट की हमने बात कर ली है. हाइट भी गेन होने लगती है. सो इन सम टाइम्स हाइट ऑल्सो स्टार्ट्स टू गेन. सो नाउ बिकॉज the baby is gaining the height, it starts to take a very slender shape. That is, the baby doesn't look very the fat starts to decrease because the height is growing, right? So baby starts to look lean, ठीक है ना. You can say in the third year when the baby gets into the third year, because पहले क्या हो रहा था, weight was also increasing, ठीक है. Weight was also increasing, so the baby was more chubby. But when the height also starts to grow, By the third year, the baby starts to look not the it's the child now starts to look very slender. ठीक है ना? Teething होने लगता है. So teeth also come out. Teeth start to erupt. By third to fourth month, बच्चों के दांत भी आने लगते हैं. ठीक है? Third to fourth month, the teeth come, and by 2.5, when the child is 2.5 years old, the mouth is full. So they have about 20 teeth. ठीक है? So first teeth coming around 3 to 4 months. By 2.5 years, the mouth is full of teeth. ठीक है? Then eye coordination starts to improve. ठीक है? Hand to mouth coordination starts to improve in you can say in 1.5 years. ठीक है? Then they start to learn. Baby starts to perform crude skills like first तो पहले वो अपना head खुद संभालना सीखता है. ठीक है? It starts to move its head on its own. It starts to sit in some time. It starts to take baby steps in sometimes. All of this you know. This is nothing that you will not know about a baby. So you can just see these pictures. So this was the fetal posture. बच्चा ऐसे होता है. Holds chin up. Then holds chest up. ठीक है? Then sits when supported. So now when the baby is 4 months, you can see that baby starts to sit with the support of the some person. In 7 months, it can start to sit on its own. ठीक है? In 9 months, the baby can now stand holding the furniture, but अभी walk नहीं कर सकता. 10 months में crawl करना start कर देते हैं. ठीक है? And 11 months में they start to walk. ठीक है? 11 months में they can stand alone, walk alone for some time. ठीक है? So this is the growth that a baby shows. Okay? So now अभी हम क्या बात करें? Basically we are talking about the time of infancy, when the baby is infant. So this is from the birth to around 4 years. ठीक है? So do not forget this. So during this time there is a great expansion of the head and chest. ठीक है? Thus permitting development of the brain, heart, lungs, organs most vital to survive. Now basically क्या है? I have told you, we have understood. Now we are just reading the you can say the slides also, because I might have missed a certain points here and there, but the concept you have understood, right? So now the bones start to become, which was relatively softer at birth, now becomes too hard. ठीक है? Then the soft part of the skull, ठीक है, that also starts to calcify. So अभी क्या हो रहा है? Baby starts to become stronger. ठीक है? Brain weight also increases. ठीक है? By the end of second year, the brain has already reached 75% of its adult weight. That means जो brain development होता है ना, the growth of the brain, 75% of it is already achieved by the end of 2 years. ठीक है? जब तक बच्चा 2 साल का होता है, ठीक है, is already gained the 75% of the adult weight of the brain. ठीक है? ये important point है. This is important point. Okay? So the development of the skeleton is happening. Musculature, nervous system. We have talked about how the weight height is increasing, how the child becomes slender after some time, right? Because it is catching up with this height. ठीक है? Then motor and cognitive advancement होती है. Motor skills क्या है? Eye coordination. ठीक है? For example, if you take the name of the baby, he'll look at you. So what is that? Eye coordination is there. Then hand to eye coordination is there. ठीक है? ये सब motor skills हैं that starts to develop. And ये cognitive skills भी हैं. ठीक है? The human brain grows more rapidly during infancy. ठीक है? And other tissues or organs of the body. Now, rapid motor skills development is mostly intended for the development of the upright posture. We have seen by 7-8 months the upright posture starts to come. By 10-11 months the baby starts to walk also. So this is what we had to study in this infancy part. ठीक है? Now let's do the early childhood also today. Okay, so this is what we have done. Infants and toddlers we have done. ठीक है? Now we'll start with the childhood. We start with the childhood. So childhood, you can say from 2 years to 11 years or 3 years to 12 years, whatever you want to say it. ठीक है, there'll be no clear cut thing. Somewhere it will be written 2 to 11 years, somewhere it will be mentioned to 3 to 12 years, right? So it's a clear cut नहीं है, because it also depends upon genetics, आपकी development, आपका growth. It depends upon races, it depends upon nutrition, geography. There are many features, so you can just take a generic number, but ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि your childhood goes from 5 years to 15 years. That'll be grossly wrong, right? Because in that time your body starts to hit puberty also near 15, right? So वो थोड़ा गलत हो जाएगा. You can either go for 2 to 11 or 3 to 12, anything like that. ठीक है. So childhood, when we are studying about childhood, like we did in the prenatal phase, we'll do it in the childhood also. So if I'm saying childhood is 3 to 12 years, we'll divide it into 3 parts. Your early childhood, your middle childhood, and upper child or late childhood, right? ठीक है. अभी तक what we have done, if we have to just revise, we have done the prenatal में there were 3 phases. I'll just say it like that: germinal, embryonic, fetal. Then we did postnatal starts. In postnatal we did infancy. Now we are doing childhood. Childhood mein there are 3: early, middle, and late childhood. So there are no doubts. ठीक है? I am hoping that there is no doubt. So let's start with the early childhood. So as the childhood approaches, the rate of growth decreases, because the rate of growth was accelerated in the infancy period. Now it starts to decline or slows down. The growth is not happening the way it was happening in, for example, the baby was doubling its weight in 6 months, triple the size in terms of weight in one year. ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है. The growth slows down, but there is susceptibility to diseases, and procurement of food incline them to be dependent on the elder people, because obviously 3 years का baby है or child है, he is still very young to be independent, and it depends upon its elder people, right? At the same time, the baby is susceptible to more diseases, because it starts to it is a toddler, it starts to walk, it goes here and there, so it touches things, it puts them in the mouth, okay? Because does not have that logical reasoning, so then they are more exposed to the external environment, the bacteria, the viruses, okay? So susceptibility to diseases are more. The neurological development enhances psychomotor skills, but ये तो आपको याद रखना है, till the childhood your psychomotor cognitive skills are continuously developing, ठीक है ना? For that I'll just show you a picture also. Yes, if we talk about the drawing development in the children, so this is what a 2-year-old can do. So he'll scribble. A 3-year-old can make a much better clear picture, ठीक है? A 4-year-old can draw something more than just a linear figure, ठीक है ना? 6-year-old can make better pictures, ठीक है? Then 8-year-old can draw proper diagrams, drawings, ठीक है? And he can go up to 14 years to 16 years, can make portraits also, ठीक है ना? So this is how the brain development is happening, because if you have to draw or write, there should be hand-eye coordination, there should be hand-eye-brain coordination, you should be able to hold the things, you should be able to draw, write the things. So uske liye hand-eye-brain coordination is very, very important. So you can see what a 2-year-old would do, right, to a 6-year-old. There's a remarkable shift, right? So that motor skills are constantly getting developed, ठीक है? Upright posture is developing, independent locomotion is developing. That means now the child does not need the help of anybody, he can walk on his own. This gradual attainment, yes, This gradual attainment of control over head, trunk, and upper extremities is allied with accomplishment of sitting posture and proficiency in the walking skills. So now the baby can walk on its own. So everything is more motor skills develop. Okay. So if we have to talk about if we have to summarize what we have done in the early childhood, baby loses its chubbiness because height is growing. So अभी baby chubby नहीं रहा. ठीक है. Now the legs and that become longer. Pot bellies reduce क्योंकि छोटे बच्चों को कैसे क्यूट सा टमी होता है ना, दैट इज कॉल्ड द पॉट बेली. बट नाउ इट स्टार्ट्स टू रिड्यूस बिकॉज द हाइट इज ग्रोइंग. ठीक है. द बेबी इज ग्रोइंग. मोर मसल स्ट्रेंथनिंग होती है, मसल्स पर पाउंड इंक्रीज होता है. गर्ल्स में फैटी टिश्यूज इंक्रीज होते हैं. राइट. सो इन दिस यू कैन से थोड़ा डिफरेंस बिटवीन द सेक्स रिलेटेड growth and development also takes place thoda bahut, right? Then brain and nervous system, circulatory system, theek hai, they are their capacity is increasing, motor skills is increasing, they can walk in a straight line. So walking in straight line so walking in straight line also requires your brain development. theek hai. So that is happening. Then they starts to do their sports, dancing, you can say sports, dancing, ये सब they start to do. ठीक है ना. muscle hand coordination भी हो जाता है. So they can scribble also, they can cut with scissor also. So these are motor, psychomotor and cognitive developments that they show. So I think this much is fine for today. Tomorrow we'll do the next part of it, that is early and late childhood. I hope you guys liked the lecture, guys, and if you did, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.